Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's now time for us to look at what the papers are saying this Friday morning. The Nation newspaper has on the front page, President Tinubu to commission Kabusa Kete Road today. The Honorable Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Nyesom Wike, and the Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Maria Mahmood, will do this on behalf of all residents of the Federal Capital Territory. If you look at the Punch newspaper, federal revenue agencies face shake-up as Tinubu signs tax bills. Customs, NUPRC, MDAs may see tax collection. So NRS, new VAT sharing formula begins January the 1st, 2026. Daily Independent, new tax laws necessary for Nigeria's prosperity, says Tinubu. Federal government to roll out modalities soon. Platform Times, looking at the political angle to issues happening in the country. Tinubu moves to end emergency rule in Rivers as Fubara, Wike reconcile. Peace deal in sight after Aso Rock meeting with actors. And Daily Trust also speaks to the politics of things. PDP BOT backs NWC members, insist on June the 30th NEC meeting. The Guardian newspaper, less for more, how erratic supply shortchanges Band A households, industries. So I guess these are all the papers we have up for review this morning. Let's start off with the Nation newspaper, looking at the inauguration of projects by President Bola Tinubu. I saw in one of our news stories, our reportage, where the president inaugurated EV centers, charging ports in Nasarawa State, where they, not that they just discovered lithium, but they saw that, yes, we have lithium in abundance. But he was also telling the governors that do not get this distracted. You have to get into governance and get this to the grassroots. Yeah,
as I said, was it yesterday or so, commissioning projects is very good optics for the administration. It builds trust. It encourages people to go pay their taxes. If you remember what happened in Lagos some years back when development was coming from everywhere and people were walking to tax offices and say, hey, please assess me, I want to pay my tax. So when you start seeing things like this happening, commissioning projects left, right, and center, it encourages citizens' participation. Did
you mean that happened in Nigeria?
Sorry?
That happened in Nigeria?
Oh, yes, it happened in Lagos.
What was that?
We are not in Lagos.
It happened in Lagos. It encourages citizens' participation in governance. So I would love to see stories like that from every state in Nigeria.
Absolutely. Veronica.
Okay, so, well, we have been talking about the need for infrastructure so that people can feel the dividends of democracy. Yeah. But is it, for me, the question I'll keep asking, is it really what the people need? Yes, the charging centers and all of it is important, is good, but wouldn't it be better if they can charge this in their homes and aside centers? When we talk about electricity, we've been talking about how important it is that we look at the infrastructure for electricity, for instance, which a number of times the minister have come to talk about how decayed it is because over the years there have not been investment into improving the infrastructure needed to allow for electricity at all homes. I like the fact that right now state governments have to be taking responsibility. I'd like to see them build infrastructure for electricity, for water and all of that, so that people can have access to potable water, access to electricity, access to healthcare services,
basic
and all
amenities.
of it. Basic, what Nigerians are asking for is not much. They are just basic amenities that they have been speaking about right from independence. So as much as possible, build the infrastructure, but give us something that a lot of Nigerians can easily access, like the basic amenities of life, easy access to housing, which we'll be talking about later on, because that's what a majority of Nigerians need.
Yeah, Olamide.
Very well said. I completely agree. It's great to see these mega projects being commissioning, but the question I have to ask is there consistency and maintenance culture post-commission? We do a lot of commissioning. We love to cut a ribbon, but what are we maintaining these projects? And in terms of these roads that are being created, these major highways. It's great. It's going to improve our connectivity, our economic integration. But we now have to ask ourselves, are we also now going to ignore, like you said, Veronica, at our homes, at the base levels, infrastructure in the slums, in the inroads? It's not just about the big projects or port access. It's about day-to-day connectivity. And so let's not forget the small people, essentially, is what I'm saying when we're focusing on these mega projects that make the country look great. What is in our slums? What is in our shanties? How are people living there? I think that's what we need to focus on.
Very key there. So let's move on to the Punch newspaper as well as Daily Independent. They're talking about the recent landmark, what's it called, achievement the president made, because over time we've been talking about tax collection, shoring up our tax revenue and all of that. So we have federal revenue agencies face shake-up as Tinubu signs tax bills, and then the Daily Independent is also saying new tax laws necessary for Nigeria's prosperity, says President Bola Tinubu. And if you look at this, one thing is that there's going to be shake-up. According to shake-up, just a short breakdown, saying this actually may mean that key revenue agencies, including the Nigerian Customs Service, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and several federal ministries and agencies may lose their tax collection revenue. And in fact, therefore, the Nigeria Revenue Service will be the sole body responsible for collecting federal chargeable taxes. Way to go, you think?
That's what I call plugging holes, you know? Yes, I ought to look at it from that point of view. You know, when you have so many people collecting taxes, you also make room for corruption and all that. But if you centralize it, you know, it's going to give that central agency a lot of work, but it's also going to make it easy for auditing. It's also going to make it easy to reduce corruption and so on.
And wastages.
And wastage. The other side of the law that I really like is the ease of doing business side of it, because we really need as a country to galvanize our small and medium scale businesses. They are the greatest, highest employers of labor anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
Now, if we have a better level of ease of doing business, right now our ranking is not very, you can't be too proud about it, you know. If we can increase it, you know, it will do Nigerians good. We have always been talking about the common Nigerian man, the man on the street. The ease of doing business will affect the man in the street directly.
That's right. Veronica, if you look at South Africa, we are way larger than them in terms of population, but they earn more revenue according to tax, about 30 times what Nigeria earns.
That's because they have a structure in place where they know who to tax and how to go about ensuring enforcement. So that's where my concern is. As much as this is a laudable move by the president has played his part. How about others who are meant to do theirs, to work hand in glove with government so that at the end of the day we achieve what we intend to achieve with the signing of all of these bills at the end of the day? Because if we are unable to implement, then what are we celebrating? If we are unable to ensure that we spread the net to capture those who should pay taxes. A lot of Nigerians now under the pay as you earn would not be paying as much or would not even be paying, especially if your level or what you're earning is not up to about $1 million naira or so. So as much as we are doing this to improve the economy, please, those that will be taxed, ensure that they do not evade taxes, because that is the issue. Whether whoever they may be, let the law be enforced on them. Let them pay, because if they are not paying at the end of the day, we'll come back to square zero.
That's right. That's right. And the thing is, one more beautiful thing is that they are now having to tax the rich to help the poor.
Absolutely. I think that is wonderful. It's saying here that about workers who are earning 800,000 naira or less annually are now exempted from income tax. It's also saying that there's a corporate tax cut, there's small business exemptions, there's VAT exemptions on essentials. Those are very important. When we see policy put into place, the question I always ask is, how does that affect the everyday Nigerian? And this is the question that we need to ask. But like Veronica rightly said, if this is not implemented, you know, it's not. It's just another piece of policy
so just be paper giants.
And I urge Nigerians and young Nigerians who are watching right now to actually go and educate yourself on the tax reform bill to actually understand it better. Because I had to do myself to go and do some research and actually understand how do taxes affect me on a day-to-day. What does that mean for my living and all? The president was very meticulous. I will have to say that he was very meticulous.
Absolutely.
We've been combing through the paperwork now for months, so it's great to see.
That's right. But according to what it was Devin said, the former, American statistician said, in God we trust, everyone else must bring data. But what we do not have,
I love that.
When we do not have data
I like that so much.
to be able to say, yes, you are earning as much as this, then how are we able to capture into the
Now
next?
that we have just one center, that's the Nigeria Revenue Service now, being the one that will be collecting this, they should have data. They should work with what they have.
But you know, we do not have data.
We do have data. The challenge is management.
We don't have reliable data.
So because we are not managing it as appropriate as we should. The data is there. We collect these numbers. We collect information. But how are we managing and keeping them?
And sometimes we manipulate the data to serve us.
If we are not keeping them, then there is the problem.
Absolutely.
So data management is actually our challenge.
Okay, let's race on. Moving on to the next paper, which is the Platform Times. Tinubu moves to end emergency rule in Rivers as Fubara Wike reconcile, and they will take this alongside PDP BOT backing NWC members, insisting on June 30th NEC meeting, where they said, listen, we won't have NEC meeting after they went to meet Independent National Electoral Commission, that they want to do their NEC meeting. So we do not recognize it because you do not have a national secretary. So they grudgingly reinstated Senator Anyao. But the thing there is, as we talk about that, let's also look at, looks like River State peace is getting back in the, the restoration is in the offing.
I would love to see the details of that peace deal.
Juicy.
I would really love to see the details of that peace deal, but something tells me that, hey, don't be in a hurry. As time goes on, you start seeing the details of the peace deal. But all in all, it is a breath of fresh air that we're finally going to have some peace in River State. River State is a very important state in Nigeria. You know, it holds like 70% of
the goose that lays the golden egg.
The golden egg, yes. That's in fact, that's what people call River State. So if we're going to have a semblance of peace, or the real peace in River State, is going to help us in Nigeria, and it's also going to help my family members that live there. So I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking about them too. For the PDP, wow. Very just. It is.
I'm not a member of PDP.
It is. It appears that it's still crisis, even though they are presenting a very strong front.
One thing is very clear: PDP has a constitution. The constitution speaks to things like this.
That's right.
The agency says, "Look, Mr. Chairman, you did not do right when you did this, or when you unilaterally changed, postponed the meeting, and so on." The constitution, you just follow it.
That's right. Veronica, very quickly.
All right, so the matter of PDP is that they are not ready to do, they are not ready. That's the bottom line. They are not, because if they are ready, they'll put their house in order. That's the truth. Yeah. If you really know what you're gunning for, you shelve your selfish interest aside. Right. Forget that you are trying to build coalition with other persons. What of your party? Over the years, you said this is who you would be, that you ruled for 60 years, and just after 16 years, you're struggling to stand. Right. There is something wrong fundamentally with that party, and they need to look themselves in the eye and tell themselves the truth. Now for Rivers State, you know, the president began this whole matter of reconciliation last year. They had a meeting and he brought both of them together. Unfortunately, it fell through because both parties and every other party that got involved were unable to, agree at the end of the day. Yeah. But I guess that the matter of the imposition of a state of emergency, March the 18th, perhaps changed their perception towards, okay, we need to actually resolve this matter. And I'm happy that the suspended lawmakers led by Martin Ameule were also part of that meeting that they had.
It goes beyond photo ops.
Yes, so they were part of the meeting they had with the president. For me, whatever the agreement is, it's neither here nor there. What it is for for the people of Rivers State is what matters to me.
That's right.
To ensure that they get the dividends of democracy and that this emergency rule perhaps will be suspended in no time so that the people can have a sense of representation and the breath of fresh air.
That's right.
I remember when I was younger, I'd fight with my sister. My mom said, "You people should hug yourselves." And I'd be just there like, oh, I can't believe you're making me do this.
But now you do it with fun, with happiness.
Exactly, for the greater good of the family unit.
Yes.
Like Mr. Thomas said, I would have absolutely loved to be a fly on the wall. There are questions that people are raising. Is this a truce of convenience? Is it just a political ceasefire? Is it a photo op? We don't know. But like Veronica said, it is for the greater good of the people of Rivers State. That is what matters. And we have to remember that every alliance made right now, every fight, make-up or break-up has deeper implications against 2027. All our politicians are thinking about that.
It remains
so we watch
to be
and we
seen
wait.
what's going to pan out.
And PDP, they've given us chairman. We're
Just
okay. We'll calm down.
All right, guys, quickly, the last paper here. The Guardian newspaper talking about less for more, how erratic supply changes, supply short changes Band A households, industries. So the fact that you're on Band A doesn't guarantee you having regular power supply. I don't want to mention my band, but I know that I still have some, sensible to some extent. But yesterday, I don't know. There was no light.
So the whole Band A thing just improved supply a little bit.
Yeah.
For homes, you might say, it's homes, but what about the industries? We're paid. I'm on Band A, I can tell you that. And we are paid.
Oh, you're the bandmates.
It's not a VIB issue. It just happens to be where I got a place.
That's right.
That's it. So you pay a whole lot for this thing. You expect.
And you get regular supply.
Yeah, we have better supply.
You have nothing to complain about.
No, we have better supply than where I left for this place. But is it 100%? No, it's not.
It goes back to the matter of infrastructure that I spoke about earlier on, how it's important that we need to begin to focus on key areas to, just ensure that the infrastructure, we deal with them so that we can have, sustained power supply and all of that.
Right.
I do not have power for the past 2 days and I am on Band A.
Sorry.
I am complaining. Sorry about that, girl.
Very quickly. If you guys notice in dystopian movies, in dystopian media, the first breakdown of a community is when they lose electricity, right?
Absolutely.
If all the lights go off, everybody's in panic. But that is our daily reality in Nigeria.
Oh, yeah.
When the Western world is trying to show us how a community breaks down, the first thing they do is they take the light, oh my God, the power's out. And then that's our daily reality.
And when I see that on the news, I be like, why is this news?
I tell you.
It's a regular,